Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos.
All right. Oh, wrong key. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam, yai da 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 da, bim, bam, bim, 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 bam, bim, 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Bim, bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam. Yai da 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 da, bim.
Gosh,
Bam, bim, 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 bam. Bim, 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 bam.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
And good Shabbos to you, Rabbi.
To those online as well, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom and wish one another a Shabbat Shalom. Tell us that you're here and where you're watching from. And to those in our congregation, find someone you're sitting near and introduce yourself to them and wish them a good Shabbos tonight.
Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Borechem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu li l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
As we get into our service and prepare to light our Shabbat candles, you'll notice that there is a different shaped candle up there. And we decided that for the last number of weeks, we've done different things to remember and think of those who have been held hostage for these last over a month in Gaza. And so tonight we have one single candle to represent the almost 239 plus who are still being held hostage in Gaza, so that they continue to be on our minds, that we continue to bring that awareness to our world as well, and that we can hopefully bring them back safely through our prayers. As we prepare to light our Shabbat candles, though, I'd like to invite up a member of our congregation, Dr. Cheryl Blau. And we wanted to honor her tonight because next week, on Saturday morning, she's going to be celebrating her adult bat mitzvah. And so you're all invited back next Saturday morning to celebrate with her for that.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
And at the top of page 18, Shabbat is to teach us that life can be filled with holiness and happiness only if we take the time to experience what the world has to offer. As we praise God for the sweetness of wine, so too do we express our appreciation for the sweetness of life, for all of the blessings that life has to offer, for home, health, love, work, friendship, and especially for the chance to celebrate the gifts we have been blessed with. Do we raise the cup that has symbolized the fruit of the vine and the joy of Shabbat? Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Blessed are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who has created the fruit of the vine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim.
We continue our service as we rise together for our call to worship on page 20.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch hu Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam ha'ed. Le'olam ha'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim,
B'chokhma poteach she'arim uvitvuna mishaneitim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'mesader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. Praised are you, our God, ruler of the world, who brings about the evening star. Your wisdom makes the dawn appear. You differentiate the times and seasons of our lives. The stars follow their courses as a sign of a divine creative force in the universe. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. You have created the day and night. Even though you cause the day to disappear, you bring on the light. You have developed a separation and distinction, one from the other. We call you ruler of the universe, but you are our living God. May you create understanding among us so that we might never take nature for granted. Praised are you, our Creator, who causes night to fall. As we recite the watchword of our faith. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha. Ve'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
You shall love the eternal your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way. when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be a symbol before your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I, the Eternal, am your God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I, the Eternal, am your God. These eternal words have been a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. Faith and choice bring understanding to the soul and sensitivity to the heart. In all times and places, our God has been a part of our lives. Our faith has been our rock and our help. We witnessed God's wonders when we went free from Egypt. When slavery's chains were broken, we witnessed it. May those who have the faith to believe also have the wisdom to be kind. O God, in whom we have all hope, we glorify your name now as our people have praised you throughout history.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilo osefele, nora tehilo osefele. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע הים לפני משה זה לי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך אדוני
Continue on page 25 as we rise together for the Amidah. Take a moment for our own private meditations, either following the words of our prayer books or those our hearts might prompt. Please pray silently. Adonai, Tzuri v'goali. Adonai, Tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditation to you, my God, my rock and my redeemer, my rock and my redeemer. Adonai Sifetai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Eternal God, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim
חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
You are holy, and your name is holy, and we sing your praises every day. Praised are you, the holy God. Please be seated.
השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, ועמיתנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, ועמיתנו מלכנו השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, ועמיתנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, ועמיתנו מלכנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו, ובואנו לחיים ושלום, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, ועמיתנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו
us lie down in peace, O God, and permit us to wake up in the security of knowing that we are safe and loved. Be a shield around us and keep enemies, disease, violence, homelessness, and hunger far away from those we love. Keep us safe in the shadow of your wings, for you are our protector. You show compassion and mercy when you permit us the experience of seeing the shelter of your peace. Give to your people Israel and the world a time of peace.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה Shabbat, Bain Afash, Shamru, V'nei Yisrael, HaShabbat, La'asot et HaShabbat, לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת.
And in the center of page 29, we read together our prayers for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace. And give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country that it may always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands. And may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Blessed is the eternal God, the source of peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Ki atahu melech dom lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech dom lechol hashalom. Shalom Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
As we've been doing these past 6 weeks or so, adding prayers and thoughts for those in Israel at this specific time. 3 extra prayers we've been adding to our service, which really are where our hearts and souls are linked. And so, first, a prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu shebashamayim tzor Yisrael v'go'olo barech et medinat Yisrael. Rock of Israel, our salvation, bless the state of Israel. First fruit of the flourishing of our redemption, guard her in the abundance of your love. Spread over her in the shelter of your peace. Send forth your light and truth to those who lead and judge her. They may walk in the way of justice, freedom, and integrity. Strengthen the hands of those who guard our holy land, and let them inherit salvation and life. Give peace to the land, continuous joy to her inhabitants. Soon fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall lift up sword against nation. Let them no longer learn the ways of war. And let us say, Amen. We add to that the prayer for the soldiers of Israel, the soldiers of the IDF. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov Imotenu Srav Kalei Avrachel Hu Yivrach et Chayele Tzeva Hagana Yisrael. Merciful God, who's blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Leah, and Rachel, send your blessings to the soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces who stand guard over our homeland, Israel, on land, in the air, and on the sea. From the source of strength, preserve and rescue our soldiers from every trouble and distress, from every plague and illness. May God send blessing and success in their every endeavor. May God bless our soldiers with wisdom, understanding, and insight. May God grant them salvation and crown them with victory. And let us say, Amen. And we add the prayer for the redeeming of the captives, for those who are held hostage. Achenu kol beit Yisrael. May God be merciful to our brothers and sisters, our fellow Jews, who wander over sea or land, who suffer captivity and persecution and imprisonment. May God soon bring them relief from distress and deliver them from darkness into light, from subjugation to redemption. And let us say, Amen. Now we turn to our prayers of healing for our congregation, our community, for our friends and family who we think of at this time. And as our tradition is, we walk around with the Torah, reminding ourselves that Torah is not only a source of wisdom and knowledge, as it's been for thousands of years, but so is it a source of strength and hope. Please rise. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu Srav Kalei Avrachel Hu Yivrach et Ocholim. Merciful God, who's blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Leah, and Rachel. Send your blessings to our loved ones we think of at this time. Alyssa Ioto and Amy Drysdale Atler, Suzanne Becker, Michael Brody, Chris Burke, Karen Hasman, Patty Seresny, Audrey Chase, Pastor Kent Clark, Michael Eisen, Ann Gautreau, Richard Gautreau, Batia Batsha Panina, Ava Haber Cornholm, Ty Hall, Donna Marie Huck, Leon Klein, Scott Klein, Chaya Aviva Bat Fegla, Karen Coltono, Marta Lazar, Alan Lieberman, Gertrude Levin, Zoe Marcus, Len Miji, Barak Drew Ben Avram Babella Shira, Gail Mintz, Lev Herschel Ben Bat Ami, Marla Moston, Rezel Batle Miriam, Carolyn Peterson, Eileen Porcelli, Rachel Beit Chaim Bachava, Marcy Fisher-Reiners, Leslie Riggs, the St. Amman family, Stephen Siegel, Simcha Bemina Bar Menachem, Guy Stern, Susanna Stern, Len Turman, Karen Thompson, Ed Wade, Barbara Weinstein, and all the names in our hearts, especially as we think of the 7,770 and more Israelis physically injured from the October 7th terrorist attack, and all those in Israel and throughout the world emotionally hurting and in need. Baruch atah Adonai Rav Chaim. Bless you, God, give strength to those in need. Continue on page 41 with the Aleinu and our concluding prayers.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Grief sometimes seems so unfair. If we let a loss embitter our souls, our hearts will never heal. Only faith and trust lighten our load. Grief is part of life's lesson when it makes us want to be whole. Somehow, when we're hurt by sadness, We understand that helping others is how we heal. We, more than someone who has been untouched by life and death, understand that silence can sometimes be acceptable. We who have been crippled by loss appreciate how a word can make a difference in another's life. When we do the best we can for the world around us, we celebrate life and sanctify the lives of those we love. This time in our prayers, our thoughts turn to those taken from our midst in this past month, whose Shoshim we continue to mark, friends and family of our community: Arthur Greenblatt, Douglas Greenbaum, Ethel Rosenblatt, Marvin Rott, Lori Faber, Lenny Romanek, Itai Cohen, Omer Balva, Samantha Wall, Daniel Max, Ralph Sasson, Robert DeRoven, Rabbi Daniel Schwartz. I also think of the 55 soldiers of the IDF who've been killed defending Israel in this past month, working to bring home the Israeli hostages, as well as the over 1,200 Israeli family and friends whose lives were lost in a terrorist attack in Israel on October 7th. Linking their names and names whose yortzites we mark on the Shabbat, those anniversary of passing we lovingly commemorate: Max Baskin, Gertrude Beckman, Minnie Bershus, Amy Kumiel, Harlan Cohen, Lillian Eichler, Eddie Eskovitz, Arthur Faber, Ben Feinstein, Chuck Fisher, Henry B. Frank, Bob Gann, Jack Glazer, William Hortis, Cy Indianer, Francis Cassander, Esther Levine, Nora Malley, Beatrice Malone, Ethel Marcus, Sam Lewis Meisel, Sybil Mildred Myers, Esther Side Minland, Maya Jo Must, Fred Needleson, Tilly Rubin, Marilyn Scher, Sarah Snyder, Freda Joy Stillwater, Liba Weingarten, and Henry Westheimer. And linking in their names all the names we do not recite on this Shabbat, those of every faith and family whose lives have touched ours, as well as those who have no one to stand and say Kaddish for them. So do we join together as one family, as one community, and join the immortal words of the mourner's Kaddish as found on page 46 of our prayer books. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, b'alma divra chirate v'almich malchute, b'chayech chon uvyomech chon uchayede chol beit Yisrael, b'agala uvizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mavarach olam amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, Minadar binalal shemed kudesha brichu. Ha'ela minko birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechamata. Da'amram v'yama v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlomo rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru. The source of peace, and peace to those who mourn, comfort to those who are bereaved here and everywhere. And let us say, Amen.
Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael,
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. So, Rabbi and I wanted to share because we both have something to say. And so you don't get one sermon tonight, you get two smaller sermons or thoughts, because we are blessed to go with our community on Tuesday to the March for Israel along with 290,000 others in our country who gathered in Washington, D.C., which was really a powerful experience for us both to be a part of. And so we wanted to reflect on that a little bit and then answer your questions about the entire experience and what we encountered, as well as our feelings about that, or anything else, as we always do at Tish. And then we'll go into our announcements at the end before our own night. So,
Excellent.
I'll let you go first.
Perfect.
I'm
So,
with my friend.
as Rabbi shared, and the news articles reported later on, there were about 290,000 people. So almost 300,000 Jews, non-Jews that gathered in Washington, D.C. this week on Tuesday on the National Mall to be able to listen to a number of speakers, performers or musicians that were there that were part of it as well, that really had a threefold mission. One was to be able to support Israel. Two was to send out the message of bringing back the hostages and getting them home safely. And number three, against anti-Semitism. I was fortunate, I flew commercial and was able to arrive just before the ceremony began, and they actually, or before the march began, and there was actually a program for young adults that they had leading up to that. By the time that I arrived around 12:30, the mall was already filled with people. It was pretty cool and incredible to be able to see that there were people, students, high school students, younger than that, much older than that were already there. But it was clear that there were a number of high school students along the East Coast that took their entire school there to be able to be a part of this march and to work towards those three goals and support that in that way. Incredible speakers that were there as well. The first one that I heard that I recognized was Natan Sharansky, who is the head of the Jewish Agency, but who was a dissident in Russia and at one point was put into the Gulag, into jail because he wanted to leave, and he was Jewish and wanted to leave the former Soviet Union. And they weren't letting Jews out at that time. And that was why 40 plus years ago in Washington, D.C., there was another march for Soviet Jewry that he actually helped plan after being released and being able to make it out of the Soviet Union. And if you have questions about that, Rabbi Mike actually was here. Not here, but you brought a group. You were here.
I was a student in college in 87.
Look, just don't
Shir
college.
Shalom didn't exist in 87.
Just kidding. He wasn't here, but he was a part of that. He can tell you about his experience for that. But to hear Natan Sharansky and his experiences and sharing and talking about the idea that our entire community, that we're praying for those people that are being held hostage and for their release and their safe return was pretty powerful to hear. For somebody who sat in solitary confinement for a long time in Russia and experienced some of the same terrors and torture that we're assuming that some of the hostages are experiencing right now. Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel, was another one of the speakers, and what I enjoyed about his message and what he was talking about is he was actually brought to us via satellite and was being filmed in front of the Western Wall. And he talked about the idea that we're all one. That our entire community is one, and that the world is looking on and supportive of Israel bringing back the hostages. And I thought that was a really important message to hear, that Israelis recognize that and the power of seeing what we're posting, seeing that we're gathering here in the United States, that gave them support and lifts them up during these difficult times as well. The last speaker that I listened to fully and while I was there, because I had to run home a little bit, but was Deborah Lipstadt, who is the U.S. ambassador against anti-Semitism. And she travels all over the world talking about the challenges of anti-Semitism and has a pretty busy schedule these days, unfortunately. But she talked about that anti-Semitism is really the gateway to racism. And she shares that message wherever she goes, and she's spending a lot of time in Europe that she just talked about. But really that the challenge that we're seeing right now against the Jewish community all over, that really it's a gateway, and that we need to speak up now, and other communities need to speak up now and be there to support the Jewish community, because eventually it's going to go to other communities as well. And we actually see that happening, and the challenges that other communities are experiencing, and the racism and the bigotry that's around in our world, and that people think it's fully acceptable. most incredible for me, in addition to those speakers, and I saw, was actually the heads of the Republican and Democratic parties in the Senate and the House and the Congress. That all four of them stood together on the dais in front of the Capitol building. Each one gave a different speech. Chuck Schumer started it off and just talked about the power that we have as individuals and the incredible challenges that we've experienced as a Jewish community over these last 80 years, and that it's our responsibility, as we said, never again, to make sure that never again is now, and that we carry that message, and that the U.S., the United States, strongly supports Israel in its mission right now to be able to end the terrorist acts that are going on in Israel, and to be able to bring back the hostages as well. So, to me, it was those messages that I heard in each one of those speakers, the idea of that support that we as American Jews and the American community have for Israel and helping them fulfill that mission. Two, the responsibility that all of us have to speak out when we see hate, but specifically right now against anti-Semitism, whether that's on college campuses, whether we see it in social media, whether it comes across in other ways as well that we're seeing it being spewed. And that idea that the responsibility that we have to really come together as a community and to support one another. And so for me, just the power of being with 290,000 other people and sharing that same vision as well, and hoping that the safe return of those hostages comes quickly was pretty powerful. I was honored to be able to represent our community and to be in Washington, D.C. for that.
The overwhelming sense of that we're not alone. When you stand in a throng of 290,000 people and your cell phone won't work because our signals are all jammed. Literally, like we came separately, but trying to find each other, we were able to. My brother, as a rabbi, was with his congregation from people from New York, and we couldn't find each other. We haven't seen each other in a few months, but we were unable to find each other because nothing was working on our cell phones. I called my dad, my dad and I met at the rally in 1987 for Soviet Jewry, and I was a sophomore in college, and he came with a delegation from St. Louis, and I said to my dad, remember we met up there, it was great, we were there, and I said, our cell phones didn't have problems, and Steve and I had problems. He goes, we didn't have cell phones, Michael. I'm like, yeah, Dad, I know, I'm kidding. So, anyway, but I kept thinking back to that experience, and I'm holding this prayer here. I have my notes on it too, because I took on Tuesday. But an Orthodox gentleman came up to us, and he was handing out cards, and he said, would you take a prayer to say for a soldier? Every one of these cards has a different soldier's name on it. And he said, and it's the prayer for those in harm's way, the traditional Hebrew prayer, those in grave danger who are protecting Israel. And then it goes on to say, I am praying and doing good deeds in the merit for an Israeli soldier. And it felt like, okay, we're caring about each other. We're thinking. Now, this is an Orthodox Jew who part of his mission is to get me to do more mitzvot so the Messiah comes. I know he's an additional mission as well, and maybe that will happen. I don't know. But the idea of me doing good, thinking of an Israeli soldier who's on the front line there, linked up well. And we all took these cards. I was blessed to be there with my wife, Leslie, and actually she saw the announcement of the rally before I did and texted me and said, we need to go. And she and our president of our congregation, Allison Parr, they both texted and said, we need to go. So I'm like, okay. So, and Asher, our son, wanted to go too. And Asher, as many of you know, just came home from Israel 2.5 weeks ago after graduating college and really spending the last 4 years there. So he's been quite passionate. And so on Friday or Saturday, he said, Dad, we should have Israeli flags with us. We should carry Israeli flags, but people know who we are. So I ordered, Amazon works really quickly. Wow, Israeli flags within 24 hours at my doorstep. 2 Israeli flags. I come home and I see Asher writing on his Israeli flag. I'm thinking, well, that's not really reverent. And very neatly, he's writing the name of every Israeli who's being held hostage across his flag. And he wore that flag, as many people had a flag draped around them, and people kept stopping and wanting to talk to him and taking pictures with him. And he looked at me and goes, see, I am Instagram worthy. But it made him feel, because Asher felt conflicted coming home from Israel in the midst of war. He was there October 7th occurred. We woke up to a barrage of text messages from him starting at 2:45 in the morning saying, we're at war, Hamas is in Israel, sirens are going off, we're in all that. And he was living by himself at the time, right? So as a parent with a almost 23-year-old son, don't feel so good in that moment personally, but also very worried about Israel. And remember that first day, we didn't know what was up. So he, as many of you know, did work to help Israeli soldiers, was collecting goods and supplies and getting them to bases and packing that up and helping out as much as he could, driving friends who were getting called up to their bases because he had a car to use. So, he was helping in the ways he could, and now he came home. And he almost didn't come home at the last minute. He made a deal, I told Bunny the story earlier, made a deal that he'd go to Monday Night Football. If I would get tickets for Monday Night Football for the Lions, he would definitely come home. What I didn't, okay, fine. I can be bought, My wife was very happy. He's coming home. He called his brother, my other son, in Chicago and said, hey, can you come home for Monday Night Football? Nathan works in Chicago. And so Nathan tells me this. Asher wants me to come home. I'm like, Asher, Nathan, I only have 2 tickets. I can't take 3. What's going on? He's like, no, Asher's not going to come home. And he knows how angry you'll be because he knows how much money you spend on the tickets. And so therefore, you and I can go, says Nathan. I'm like, oh, man. Asher did get on the plane. He did come home. And so for us to be there together felt like we were supporting Asher. We're supporting Israel. We're not alone in this as well. And the idea that we were sort of listening and singing and praying together. But there's also this overwhelming sense of sadness, too. The idea that, Deborah Messing, the actor, was there, and she spoke beautifully, and she was the one who introduced 3 families who, a member of the family, one family had 6 members of the family being held hostage. And so their strength is remarkable. Hearing them speak was unbelievable. But understanding and feeling what they're going through is unbearable. And then we were now leaving, and we could talk about the debacle with our planes and our buses, but I was lucky. My plane got there, our buses got there. We sat in the bus for a long time. We were delayed in taking off late at night on Tuesday night. Why? Because the El Al charter jet that brought the hostages they got to the airport and they expedited them through so they could move along quicker and get out of D.C. And we found that out. We're like, we'll wait all day. It's okay. Let them go. And the idea of understanding our lives and our inconveniences are nothing compared to what people are going through in our world and the reality of that too. And lastly, I think a sense of, look, I was lucky. I work for a Jewish institution. I don't know if you know that. And Rabbi and me could say to our staff, hey, we're going to miss work on Tuesday. We're going to D.C. We have that liberty to do that. And being there with my wife and my son, and with many others who felt that way, felt very good that we understand how important this is. And I know as a rabbi at times, I think we do things, we're your emissaries. We do things for you. So we were representing all of you there too. And many of you have texted and said that on Facebook and Instagram, like that we were there representing Temple Shir Shalom and our connection to Israel and our responsibility. And that felt good knowing we're doing that. But I thought back to my time with my dad and how much that meant to us to meet up in D.C. and how many parents I saw with children. And again, I was there with my sort of adult son, but parents with young children too. And watching them go through this was really one of our board members, Lori Davidson-Mertz, had her 8th grade daughter with her, took her out of school. And it was an exhausting day for a young kid. We had one child on our bus who was, I think, a 2nd or 3rd grader. He was in stage 3. So, he was very articulate about why this mattered and his concern for Israel. And I loved hearing that, right, and what that meant. But with his dad, the two of them made this journey. And I think that's what it's about, that we teach our children in our actions. And all of us have that opportunity in what we do in our lives to convey that message of what we care about. Because our children aren't just our own children, it's those who watch us constantly. As Jews, we're always being watched. And I think it's important for us to remember that we set that example. And, the idea of seeing our march for Israel as such a positive experience, where people talked about being together, people talked about wanting peace, people talked about freeing hostages, people talked about freeing Gaza from Hamas, and not about violence. It was affirming about who we are and the values we stand for. So now for your ideas, your questions, and your thoughts. Yes, Arthur.
Mm-hmm. So for those at home, Arthur asked the question about what was the general feeling about being there, that there are lots of different groups. Was it a positive feeling? Were there challenges? Things like that. So I'll start by saying, it was a large group of Jews. There's always complaints. So as we look at things, so, as I was there, and when I first arrived, if you came with a group, one of the benefits was they give you a blue wristband, and they had separate entrances for the groups to be able to enter to make it a little bit easier. They gave them places to be able to park their buses and to be able to enter. So I was actually waiting for Rabbi because he was going to get a blue wristband for me to be able to enter. I had no idea where the other entry was. It was somewhere way far away from where I was coming in and entering. And so I just hung out for a little bit and listened to the first speakers from outside the fence. They had a chain link fence to be able to cordon off the area and to make sure that everybody was staying safe. It was listed as like a level 1 event for Washington, D.C., which meant like they had police at the subways everywhere, not just police, but Secret Service, all sorts of security.
National Guard was actually called up and started patrolling at like 8 a.m. that morning.
Yeah. So there's a lot of security and making sure that people were safe. But the overall feeling, did I see protesters that were there? Yes, but they were off on the side. And nobody paid attention to them. We weren't there to argue, disagree. We were there for a purpose of speaking out against anti-Semitism, supporting Israel, and bringing back the hostages. And so when people were there, which were very small numbers that I saw, that were against what was going on, people just walked right by them. So overall, really general positive feeling, good energy, positive message that they were sharing of let's bring these people home.
And the non-Jews, there are tens of thousands of non-Jews who were part of this too. I don't know what percentage, it was like 5% of but there are groups, pastors who spoke from the stage, Pastor one who's the head of Christian Zionists who support Israel. They're a little more right-wing Christian than Shir Shalom, but nonetheless, we don't always talk about who we're in bed with when we're supporting Israel. So, but there are a number of non-Jew and Jewish groups, black groups who are there supporting us. And that feels good. Just like when George Floyd was murdered, Rabbi and me were marching with Christian groups of ministers in Detroit to say, this is not right. This is not what our society is. This is not what we expect to see. And so, I know some of our pastor friends appreciated our presence in that as well. So you appreciate that, but you feel it was uplifting. Like I said, that we were not alone in this, not just with non-Jewish groups, but that our community of 290,000, the largest gathering of Jews in America ever, right? I didn't know, I said to Rabbi before services, I didn't know how many were at the Rally for Soviet Jewry in 1987. And learned in an essay today, it was 250,000. So, it's powerful to be a part of something like that and opportunities. My brother and I were talking. He went to the rally in 2002 to support Israel when Second Intifada started. And he said that this felt different, not just because I think it was 100,000 that time. This felt different because of the hostage crisis. And the families, the reality of that, there are not just this existential threat to Israel that exists with all the countries that are around it, and the threat of Lebanon getting involved in Iran and what we understand, and our appreciation of the magnitude of this, but the fact that there are 240 families waiting. And two more Israelis, well, one was a Tanzanian worker and one was an Israeli, were found dead this afternoon. So, or the news came to us this afternoon. So, that reality is unbearable. And to recognize what Israel's going through. And, Israel is indelibly changed because of what happened on October 7th and what continues to happen today. And anyone who was in Israel at that time, I think, will have challenges as they think about those emotions and the unknown feeling of, were they safe? Someone ran into their home, into our home, literally, and pulled people out and murdered them and tortured them and kidnapped them. And so every Israeli sort of felt that could be them. And so in talking to our Israeli friends, we feel that, and you sense that in hearing from these families and asking us, what are we going to do? And are we doing enough? That's why we have the chairs out in the front. Like, we wrestled with, should we do something more at Temple? Here, you've seen pictures in the Jewish news this week of synagogues, and we've been doing the Shabbat candles that we all light, 240 Shabbat candles. We're going to take some of the classrooms and put, the placards up there for all of the kidnapped individuals in Israel. We decided not to because we all are aware of what's going on. The reason why we have it on the street corner is 50,000 cars drive on that street corner every day. And it's the non-Jewish world that we want to know about this and keep this at the forefront of our conversation. And I silenced. It's a long answer. I know. Deborah Lipstadt, there was a CNN program at 9 o'clock last Sunday night, which you can pull up on demand, and it was on anti-Semitism. And Deborah Lipstadt, that rabbi mentioned, was featured in it. And, I said to my wife as we were watching it, isn't some of it sort of obvious? And I realized we live this as Jews, as leaders in the Jewish community, but the fact that CNN at prime time did this, that the majority of people watching us are not Jewish, and how important that is. And Deborah Lipstadt's comment also about anti-Semitism was that anti-Semitism isn't Jew hatred alone. It comes up when people are discontented, angry about something else, but we're the easy target as a small minority. It's emblematic of something else bigger that's happening in our world. That's a problem that if we don't resolve, it will not just be our end, but others as well. It'll move to the next larger minority. So the concern around that too, which I think is very true. And Noah Tishby calling anti-Semitism the chronic illness, the chronic disease of humanity.
Yeah, go.
Deborah Lipstadt. Deborah Lipstadt, ambassador to combat anti-Semitism in the U.S. government. Now I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sure it was something really poignant. I was going to leave you with this thought that's, don't know if I want to go there or not, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Can we survive in diaspora? We have this great American Jewish community, right? We're 6, 7 million people? Every diaspora Jewish community, ultimately, what's happened? We've been kicked out of our country, we've been murdered, we've failed as a community. That's why, but we're the first diaspora community to exist with Israel. And so I asked that question, and my answer is that's why Israel exists as well. It's not just our safe haven. It's the idea that when we work together, we protect each other too. Because we have behind us the strength of Israel, just as Israel has behind it the strength of American democracy. That's what we need and hope. So, but the concern is, the most successful Jewish community in history was the German Jewish community in the, at 1929, 1930. German Jews voted for Hitler because they were concerned about the economy. Oh, that sounds something. Anyway, so unbelievable when we think about that today, right? Unreal. And there were, in every profession of society, German Jews had, from professors to doctors to everything. In the government as well. And they said it couldn't happen. And as it was happening, German Jews said it couldn't happen. So, we can't be silent is the answer as well for us living in Israel or living in diaspora. And the message of this is real anti-Semitism, and we have to speak up. We can't be afraid to use our voice. I've heard, Rabbi and I have talked to a lot of college kids and graduate school kids, and their concerns, and sometimes they don't want to have the argument. They don't want to fight, right? And the question is that okay to stay silent? I get it. Your friends are posting things. Your Jewish friends are posting things that are pro-Palestinian, but even worse, are anti-Israel or pro-Hamas. Do you stay silent? Where's the line that you draw? And I was arguing with a child, I won't say what their last name is, it rhymes with Moskowitz though, and about should I direct message one of the friends who is posting things that I know offends my child as well, my daughter as well, because she believes strongly in Israel. And I know this friend well, but do I want to go there? Is that going to, then so, to be continued. So, yeah. Well, PR, the statement is the idea of we have to be careful in how we present and how we argue because of the divisions that exist within our own community. I mean, in Israel, what's remarkable is how unified Israel's become. And of course, a year ago, 3 months ago, Israel had never been more divided, right? And I blame the government and Netanyahu for creating that and doing anything to keep himself in power and really putting Israel at such risk. And hence, I think Israelis feel that because I think today's poll before Shabbat in Israel was only 4% of Israelis support Netanyahu today. So this guy somehow stays in power. Who knows how this will end for him? I have my desires with that. But Israel is unified and together in this. Now, there are people marching on the Prime Minister's house in the Knesset today saying Israel's not doing enough for the hostages. The families of the hostages were protesting. There are Israelis protesting saying they want a ceasefire, actually, today in Israel. Now, I'm sure some of those were Arab Israelis as well, but they're Israelis, and Jews were alongside them. We have in this country a lot of Jews like us who are passionate about Israel, don't always agree with the Israeli government, but feel very strongly about that and are concerned by some of the Jews who speak out against Israel and don't realize with the statements they're making the harm they might be doing as well, right? And even being, pro-Hamas in some of their rhetoric. So, I mean, I'm not going to scream and yell at someone. I said to a young woman this week who posted something, one of our high school kids, right? And I said, hey, I'd love to have a discussion more with you about this. Rather than saying, you're wrong, this is not accurate, and, I want to still honor her because I don't want her to run from Judaism either.
There's a piece of it when we talk about Israel at times, over the last 17 years that I've been here, when we've been on the Bima, we don't air our dirty laundry. Israel's got its challenges, a lot of challenges in doing different things, but it's statements when we're out in front of the non-Jewish community. I don't say Israel's perfect, but I also don't bring up things that I know that are challenges in Israel. And right now especially, I think that's one of the challenges that we see as we're going through things that those who recognize the blemishes that Israel has are happy to throw those out there and say, look, it's not perfect in these things. But that gets picked up by other communities and makes us look at Israel in a very different way. As opposed to talking about, here are the challenges, but here are also the blessings of Israel and the good things and the reason that it's important that Israel exists.
Joe, yeah. Joe's question is, what is the response when when we look at some of the policies of Israel's government and have such a conflict with it? Not that Israel's at war today with Gaza and with Hamas, but in general, and we see such challenge with that, and that's occurred for a while now with Israel's government. I'll say, look, I publicly protested the government, marched with protesters with hundreds of, there was 50,000, I think, when I was in Jerusalem that night on a Saturday night after Shabbat. And it was very powerful because, again, I wasn't alone. I was protesting with Orthodox families, with gay couples, with young people and older people. It felt very much like this great cross-section of Israel. I felt like, wow, I'm using my voice. And the cool thing as well, the American flag has this weird patina now in our minds, and we're almost like bashful about waving the American flag. You see, and we think it means something maybe that it doesn't. And I'd love to sort of reclaim the American flag because it used to be really, for me, a statement of pride. Israel has that Israeli flag, and you see the protesters all carrying Israeli flags. And you see counter-protesters carrying Israeli flags. They're like, okay, we're on the same team. We may look at it differently, but that's good. So that's one thing. I think it's in this situation, it's really differentiating between West Bank policy and challenges there and Gaza and Hamas. And that's what I really like. I don't like Israel's policy in the West Bank, and I've spoken about that, and would love to see Israel change that, and I hope there's a new government that will change what's happening. And that's what I'd like to support. And so I personally have given my donations to organizations that will support that in the reform movement in Israel. Our progressive movement in Israel works to make sure that we're not building settlements, and to have women rabbis and just the Judaism that we love. So that's number one. Number two, understanding that Gaza is a different entity, and what's happened there is something that's catastrophically different, and sort of if we lump them together, that's when we get all the confusion, I think. And we say this is something completely different right now. Now, things that are happening in the West Bank today, I don't think are good. And again, I don't think what the settler movement has fomented is positive whatsoever, and is only causing more problems.
The only thing I added is just other organizations as well. So the IRAC, Israel Religious Action Center, is also another great organization that is working towards making sure the rights of everyone that's living in Israel proper, but also in the West Bank, they're working to make sure that people have rights and that they're equal rights. And I think that's an important organization to be able to support as well. There's a number of other ones happy to share that are doing that. I think that's the greatest way as Americans that we're able to influence what's going on in Israel.
Look, there are groups of Jews. We don't all get along, there are groups of Jews now, a settler movement that wants to settle Gaza, who want to take over Gaza. And so imagine if they're the ones being quoted in the newspaper representing us. It's horrible. That's not, we don't, and I think the Israeli government failed because when they forcibly took Jews out of Gaza in 2005, they made commitments of what they would do to help resettle them. And they didn't fulfill all those commitments. And so they're like, we're going back. And of course, these are zealots. These are not, it's not our community. So, again, here, what gives me hope right now is the 3,000 ultra-Orthodox Jews who signed up in the IDF for the first time ever to be a part of Israeli military. Strange that I feel like good about that, but it's a start, and I see the idea that Israel, you see more a sense of community there than we have in a long time. I hate that it took something that's so catastrophic that made that happen. Our resident Israeli wants to comment right now. Moti wants to say? Yeah, it is a challenge. Well, I'll tell you what else we've realized in this time. It's good to be part of a community like Temple Shir Shalom. I'm glad that we exist because we help each other through difficult times. And, you know, the kids who call us and families who call us not sure how to wrestle with this and answer the questions, it's conversation that we have to keep having it because we don't have definitive answers. It's sort of uncharted territory for us as well. Yeah, we have a love for Israel, but navigating this and the angst that we feel and being honest about it and talking to our kids is important. It's nice, I'm teaching a graduate school class at U of M. Only, I'm not teaching a full graduate school course, I'm the guest lecturer one time. So, and it's my professor from Hebrew Union College, who now is a U of M grad professor, and she asked me to come in and talk about a rabbinic perspective of conversations around Israel. She asked me this 3 months ago to come and do this. So we talked this week, and she goes, things have changed. And she goes, it's become sort of a social work therapy class now, where these Jewish kids are feeling really isolated. And these liberal Jewish kids who feel like let down by their liberal non-Jewish friends. And they're at a loss. And can we just have a conversation? And she said, any of your kids who are undergrads who want to come and join the conversation, great, let them come. So I'm thrilled that we have this, avenue to have that kind of conversation. And I'm glad that we can do that. And I feel blessed that we have a community that admits we don't have all the answers, but we're in it together, and that's important. So, well, it's good to be together. We have an oneg to enjoy. And so let us rise for our closing prayer. I didn't make any announcements.
Great things happening. Check out the Thursday Blast.
Yeah, you can. One here is nice. Adopt a family for the holidays. If you're interested in doing that, we've been talking about that at Shorish, at religious school. But you can go on our website and see the link to that to help families who don't know the blessings of others to help them as well. And so that's great. Women of Shir Shalom on December 14th. 13th. And the Holiday Boutique is the 13th, too, excuse me. And December 17th is our dedication of our new space. Very exciting.
A great blessing for us.
It is. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you. May God protect you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'choneka.
May God shine upon you. May God shine through you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yisim lecha shalom.
May God always be a part of who we are. To be all of our blessings, all of our sense of that perspective to appreciate our blessings. Most of all, blessing us with shalom, peace.
Amen.
V'yisim lecha shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Let's go over Nash.